Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wrestling Experience. My name is Earl Cole, and thank you so much for watching here tonight. We got the Knicks in the playoffs, and of course, we've got wrestling lore here for you here tonight. Tonight on the Wrestling Experience, folks, we're going to discuss AEW Dynamite. We're going to discuss Dynamite. We're also going to discuss we're also going to discuss wrestling news, and I have a very sad update on a wrestling fan that I'm going to share with you here tonight. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to discuss the releases of WWE and so much more here tonight on the wrestling experience because you crash landed on that mothership. You landed on Planet Experience, folks. You landed on a Thursday evening. This is the wrestling experience. All right, folks. All right. Make sure that you do that down the bottom there. You curb stomp that like button. You curb stomp that like button, folks, and you do your due diligence and do so. And make sure that you subscribe and make sure you share. I want to welcome you all again to the wrestling experience. Thank you all for coming in this evening. And of course, we are here, we're gathered here today for an experience like none other. We're going to talk about the releases. We're going to talk about everything you need to know, wrestling news, Dynamite Rewind, all of that for you here tonight on the experience. So let's just dive right into it, shall we? Let's just dive into it. And I think the first thing we're going to talk about here tonight is the WWE's releases. Ladies and gentlemen, if you all didn't see the releases that took place last week on SmackDown, TKO did the releases, and Nick Khan and Triple H also had a figure in the decision. And these releases some were not surprising, some were kind of shocking. None so that Kyrie Singh, who was released by the WWE at TKO. So everybody online, everybody online was signing a petition for Kyrie Singh to be reinstated and to come back. Unfortunately, Kyrie Singh has moved back to Japan. She went back to her homeland. She went back to her country, and I guess she's done. I guess she's done with, I don't know if she's done with wrestling, but apparently she went home. She went home. She went back to her country. And Kyrie Singh is, it was a shocking move. It was a shocking move because she was in the mix with Asuka, and they were feuding with Io Sky, and then all of a sudden WWE and TKO decided that they had enough of her and they released her. I don't know what more to say about that, but it was in the midst of a storyline, and then all of a sudden they flipped the script. TKO flipped the script and released her. And that's business, folks. That's just business. That's how the wrestling business is. If you don't like something, they want to fix it or change it. Well, that's the way they're gonna fix it. So Kyrie Singh was released, ladies and gentlemen, and she was released along with many others, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Motor City Machine Guns being released. WWE really didn't do anything with Motor City Machine Guns. They made them win the tag team championship, only to have them change it back and stripped them of it and made them cough it up to Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano winning the tag team belts. And then Tommaso Ciampa leaves WWE, and that left the belts in the air. And then they gave it to the Wyatt Six. And I'm going to tell you something, folks. I'm going to tell you something. WWE releasing the entire Wyatt Six was a miscarriage of justice. Because here's the thing. WWE never ever over 4 years, 5 years, never ever put Bray Wyatt in the WWE Hall of Fame. They went there and they brought the Wyatt Six back as an honor to Bray's work and how he was so brilliant in the ring and how he was so prominent figure in the ring. They put together this Wyatt Six, and then all of a sudden, they were hardly prominent on television. All they did was vignettes after vignettes after vignettes, and then all of a sudden, they put them in the ring, and there was really nothing to do with them storyline wise. You gave them the tag team belts. They were feuding with the MFTs, and it became boring after a while because they kept running it back. They kept dialing it back with the MFTs winning the tag team belts. Then they stole the Precious Lantern, and it was just a hot mess. The feud was a hot mess. But I think what the WWE did here and what they did to the legacy of Bray Wyatt was miscarriage of justice. And it's almost like you were spitting on his legacy, because the thing is that this man was brilliant. This man had a mind for wrestling, and you would want that. I said this many times over. You would want that mind as a writer, as a thinker, as a creator in any wrestling organization. You would want that. You would crave that mind. And that's the way Bray Wyatt was. With the Fiend and everything like that, the WWE screwed that up, as always. Screwed up the Fiend, and they screwed up the Demon. And I already had my opinion on that. So I just think that this was a miscarriage of justice to release the entire Wyatt Six. I think that was a miscarriage of justice to Bray's legacy, to what he stood for, what he stand for, and I disagree with the WWE's decision. But you know what? Here's the thing. Maybe they can thrive in another organization, some of the members. Maybe they can thrive in some of the organization. Some organization will take those talents and hone it and do it well and write for it well and give them the proper venue and outlet for them to be creative and to be and to entertain a mass audience that none of us will ever forget. So that's just my opinion on it. I think it was a miscarriage of justice to the legacy of Bray Wyatt. I don't think it was necessary for you to do that to the Wyatts. I don't think so. Um, Alistair Black and Zelina Vega being released. Okay, first of all, Zelina Vega. Let's talk about Zelina Vega for a second. Zelina Vega really didn't have anything prominent on WWE TV. She didn't. She won the United States Championship only to lose it to Julia. And then Julia losing it to Tiffany Stratton. But Zelina Vega didn't really have much of a storyline on WWE TV. All she did was being a valet to her husband, Alistair Black. So that to me, I was not surprised at that. They didn't do anything with her. There was nothing really to do with her. So anyway, folks, that is what happened to Zelina Vega. Now, Alistair Black. I was listening to a famous podcaster on the YouTube sticks, as I like to call it. You know, I do drive by sometimes and I do listen to certain individuals when they talk about wrestling. But here's the thing. This gentleman, first of all, he didn't even name the source where this came from. So I can't name the source because he didn't. So I can't tell. But this is what he said. This is what he said. He said, he said that there was a report that Alistair Black was supposed to be working with Randy Orton to be the voice on the phone. I don't know if that's true or not. Daniel Meredith Sports, how's it going? How's it going, Daniel? Hit the like button, Daniel. Thank you so much for popping in and thank you for your comment. So, so this guy says that Alistair Black was supposed to work with Randy Orton and he was supposed to be the one on the phone. But then TKO said that they wanted Pat McAfee. Now, like I said, I don't know where he got this from and what source he got it from. I don't know if that's true or not, or if it's live or it's Memorex. I'm not sure. But here's one thing. I know that there was a feud between Aleister Black and Randy Orton. They were in matches. They were in matches together. So here's the question that I have that doesn't make any sense. Why would, listen to me carefully. Watch this now. Why would Aleister Black, why would WWE all of a sudden take Aleister Black after he was feuding with Orton to then turn around and be the voice on the phone for Randy Orton? That doesn't make any sense. If he's feuding with Orton, why would WWE then turn around and make Aleister align with Randy Orton if he's feuding with Orton? You can't do yin and yang here. You can't do yin and yang. You either have him not feud with Orton and be the voice for Orton, or you want him to feud with Orton. You can't have you can't have your cake and eat it too. So what he was talking about didn't make any sense to me. I was confused as heck. I was confused because, first of all, he didn't name the source, and then he dropped that bomb saying that the report that he heard Where's the report? Who said it? I mean, you have to be careful when you say things like that because the thing is that you're not looking at the overall picture and you're not saying what the source be. See, when I say things, when I open my mouth and say things, I tell my audience where the source came from. It's either the PW Insider or DQ.com or wrestling news or something like that. I tell the audience exactly where the source came from because I'm an informist. And if people who are informists inform people, we don't leave out critical details of the story. I tell you the story, I give you the wrestling news, I tell you where it came from, and then I go on with what I have to say. That's what a good person, that's what a good wrestling journalist does. That's what a good wrestling lore does. I've been a wrestling fan now for 3 decades, and I do my due diligence to bring you stories and give you the source where it came from. Now, once I give you the story, that's up to you if you want to debate on it, or you don't think it's live or it's Memorex, or you don't think you think it's hogwash. That's up to you. That's entirely up to you. That's not something I'm going to get into. I don't fight the feeling. I just go with the flow. So so anyway, that doesn't make any sense. And again, like I said, wrestling fan needs to look at the overall picture. You're not looking at the overall picture. You're just not seeing the forest from the trees. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. When I heard it, I was scratching my head and I was like pondering, and I said, I don't know about that. That doesn't make any sense. So you can't have him feud with Orton and then all of a sudden flip the dime and then have him be the voice of it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. That's a Tony Khan move. That's what Tony Khan would do. One minute he'll take the audience on a journey, and then he'll flip the script and then give you a half baked story for you to marinate on. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's a no no. That's a no no in wrestling. That's a no no. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest here, folks. You know. So anyway, I just thought I had to point that out. Um. Okay, so Alistair Black being released, like I said, it really didn't have much to do on WWE television. It really didn't. They really didn't have much for him to do. Very slow, And another person I'm concerned with, talking about releases, is Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura hasn't been on WWE TV that much. They just job him out for any person that's on television. Can't do that. Can't do that to Shinsuke Nakamura. Very disrespectful, the WWE is towards Shinsuke Nakamura and the Japanese contingent. When you bring these stars up from NXT, they had stellar matches, but then when you bring them up, you don't know what to do with them. You don't know what to do with them. You haven't a clue. I don't know. Um, Andre Chase, Apollo Cruz. Apollo Cruz is another one. Santos Escobar. I wasn't I wasn't surprised at that either. Santos Escobar, they had nothing to do with him. They had nothing for him. He was in El Gato del Fantasma. That was boring. That became boring very quickly, that faction. That was very boring. And then you didn't see him after that on WWE TV. Apollo Crews, another person that, oh, wait. I wasn't shocked when they released him. I wasn't shocked because all he did was be backstage and do segments. That's all he did. I didn't hardly see him in the WWE ring. All they used him for was backstage furniture. It's the same thing with it's just the same thing with some of the wrestlers that are back there. And another thing too is I think Shinsuke Nakamura, Zack Ryder, all of those people are in jeopardy right now being released. Because you're not doing anything with them. You're not doing anything with them. They're not prominent on television. They have no value. So I think that's why TKO stepped in and said, okay, we're going to cut some people. Luca Cristofino, Mikhail Blade, Thrill London, Chris Island, Tyson DuPont, Alex Shelley, Chris Sabian, Dante Chin, the entire Wyatt Six. And then in the women's division, we had Nikki Cross. Now, Zoe Stark really didn't have nothing going on in WWE. I think she was injured for a vastly long time. She was off WWE TV. She really didn't have nothing going on. They had nothing for her. All she was in that faction. I forgot the name of the faction she was in. Totally. But she was in that faction with Shayna Baszler. She really had nothing to do. Really had nothing to do with her. They had nothing for her. They had nothing. They absolutely had nothing for her. So to release her, I was not surprised. Again, I talked about Kyrie Singh, Nikki Cross, Serena Linton, Alba Fire. Alba Fire was another one. Ala Dawn was released, and then eventually they got rid of Alba Fire. I mean, again, nothing to do. All she was a side piece, a sidekick to Chelsea Green and the Hurt Service, Secret Harvest. That was it. And another thing too, Chelsea Green is also in danger of being released because they're not doing nothing with her either. So, like I said, folks, some of these releases, yes, they were shocking, but if you, like I said before, I'll say it again, if you don't have anything for them to do, then what else alternative does the WWE have? You got to be prominent. You got to have a strong storyline, and you got to have. And another thing too is, and let's just talk about this for a second, and then we'll read the wrestling news later. SmackDown. Let's address this right now. SmackDown, ladies and gentlemen, SmackDown is going back to 2 hours in the summer. WWE's playing hot potato with SmackDown's runtime. First, they had it in January through now. They had it for 3 hours. Now they're going to go back to 2 hours for the summer. And then for the rest of the year, they're going to do it for 2 hours. And then again, when January comes, they're going back to the 3 hour format. See, I don't believe in this. I don't think that this is right. I don't think you should be playing hot potato with the runtime for SmackDown. SmackDown should be stayed at 2 hours permanently. It should not be messed with a 3 hour weekly episodic show because the attendance is suffering, the storylines are suffering, and you don't have a prominent power star on SmackDown. You don't. You don't have one. You don't have one. And that is something that the WWE needs to address. You can't run Cody. Cody Rhodes is not the answer to SmackDown. Now you have Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is going to be on SmackDown. Okay, that's fine. But you need a stronger male figure for SmackDown. And Cody Rhodes ain't it. And now you have Ricky Starks, who is going over the SmackDown. But you need to create new stars for SmackDown, and you need better storyline. You can't dial back the same storyline. You need something fresh and something innovative in the cook pot. And I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest, folks. I think SmackDown deserves to be on 2 hours. It was designed for 2 hours. It's not designed for 3 hours every Friday night. No, 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 not designed for that. Not designed for that at all. Um, so so that's just my thoughts on SmackDown. All right, folks. All right. We're going to get back to the wrestling news in just a moment. All right. Just give me 1 second, folks, while I pull this up. All right, folks, let's talk about AEW Dynamite. Dynamite last night took place in Fairfax, Virginia. And it wasn't a bad show. This wasn't a bad show, folks. This was not a bad show. Double or Nothing is coming up on May the 24th. He's already starting to plan the show, and he's hyping up various feuds that will make up the card. Yeah, so Tony Khan is starting to ramp up in intensity here on what you're going to see at Double or Nothing. I cannot wait for Double or Nothing. If you want to join me and many of the AEW faithful that will be in Queens, New York for the historic award-winning AEW pay-per-view known as Double or Nothing. And it's just not me saying it. Sports Illustrated says it. The Bleacher Report says it. And who do you think I'm imitating? That's just not me saying it. That's just Sports Illustrated says it. The Bleacher Reports it. Anyway. Yeah, so May 24th. Yeah, so let's look at the card. Darby Allin versus Brody King. The match was fine. The match was all right. Now everybody was concerned. Everybody was concerned that Darby Allin can't wrestle and can't hone his own as a champion. Now, I understand that there were some trepidations about him winning the title. He only did it in 5 moves. Yeah, I understand that. I get it. I understand it. I understand it. I get it. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, folks. I think right now Darby Allin can wrestle. And I think that he can hone his own in the ring. And I think that he is a champion. He's a scrappy little champion. He's a fighting champion. He wants to get in that ring and mix it up. And let me tell you something. This guy, he takes the most hellacious. And when I mean hellacious, I mean he takes the most hellacious bumps. And he still rises up the cream of the crop. No matter what you do to Darby Allin, he's like a rabid pit bull. He will bite you and bite you hard. You have to really and truly put him down in order for you to win the match and try to defeat him. And MJF wants a piece of Darby Allin. Last night MJF was on the ramp after he lost in a really interesting fashion last night on Dynamite with the low blow and the roll up. MJF now wants to mix it up with Darby Allin one more time at Double or Nothing. And I think that is what we're going to get here. But the question is, look, listen, I think that Darby Allin's going to have a feel-good story here. He already had his moment in the sun at Dynamite. And if he goes against MJF, you know MJF is going to do everything in his power to get that title back. And I have a feeling that's exactly what's going to happen to Darby at Double or Nothing if he accepts the challenge. But we will have to see. We will have to see. Like I said, I will be live inside Louis Armstrong Stadium for Double or Nothing. I can't wait to do the show. It's going to be a fun show. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a fun evening of Sunday night wrestling that you don't want to miss. All right. So Brody King took on Darby Allin. Now, next week on Dynamite, Jet Speed has a title match against Darby Allin for the title. That should be interesting. That should be real interesting indeed, as Darby Allin carries his momentum into Double or Nothing on Sunday, May the 24th. So, this was a physical, hard-hitting, Willie Wild affair between Darby Allin and Brody King. You knew you couldn't have expect nothing less. Darby Allin and Brody King really and truly brought it to each other. Both of them took each other to the limit. Darby Allin, in the end, when the smoke was cleared, retained the AEW title. He retained it. And now he's going to put it up against Kevin Knight next week on Dynamite. Should be good. Kevin Knight, as I said, took on MJF for the TNT Championship. The match was fun. The match was all right. Low blow, roll up, and MJF lost in a quick style fashion. At one point, he took Knight to his limit, but Knight had a trick up his sleeve, because what happened was is that MJF took out that stupid diamond ring, and he was going to use it on Knight. He was going to use it, but Knight had another trick up his sleeve of his rabbit hat, and he gave him the low blow and the beans and the franks. And then he defeated him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. And on the entertainment level of this match, I'll give the match a 6. The match gets a 6. And Brody King and Darby Allin, I'll also give that match a 6. Both matches get 6. Okada versus Ace Austin for the International Championship. Okada defeated Ace Austin. And again, the feud with him and Takeshita is heating up for Double or Nothing. I cannot wait for this match. I'll tell you something. I am salivating at this match. I cannot wait for Okada to be in the ring with Takeshita, and these two men are going to destroy one another at Double or Nothing. I can't wait. It's just, I am giddy over the whole thing, because as you know, in Dynasty, they didn't get along in that tag team match. You knew that was going to happen. I said it was going to happen, and it did. It came to fruition, and it happened. And I'm giddy. I'm just giddy over the whole thing. I am just to the moon excited about this match. Can't wait. Double or Nothing. Can't wait for May 24th. Can't wait. Divine Dominion and versus Chris Statlander, Hikaru Ashida. The match was fine. The match was fine for what it was. These Divine Dimension again retained the tag team titles over Statlander and Ashida. It was really, it was fun tag team match. It was not fun for Chris Statlander and Hikaru Ashida, but it was fun for the Divine Dominions. I'm going to give this match a 6. The match gets a 6. And that's the best I can do with it. The match gets a 6. Okada's match, I'll give it a 5. I'll give it a 5. So one match gets a 5, one match gets a 6. All right. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage took on RPG Vice, Roppongi Vice. Match was fine. Nice tag team match. And then the Brawling Birds were in action. So all of that you saw last night on Dynamite. Now, if you all didn't see, Anthony Bowens now is a new member of the Ops. He's the new member of the Ops. We're going to see what he can do in the Ops. He's taking over for Royce Keys, who left the AEW. So now he's going to fill that shoes, and he's going to be in the Ops. So we'll see what Anthony Bowens can do in the Ops. We're going to see. We're going to see. Okay, folks. All right. So we have that. Let's just talk about Dynamite as a whole. Like I said, I thought the show was fine. Here's something very strange, folks. Will Ospreay and the Death Riders. Now, this was very strange. This is very strange to me. Will Ospreay had a match with Jon Moxley at Dynasty. Okay.
He lost the match. They then kidnap Offspring and bring him to the back. Okay. Offspring now, it seems like, and it looks like, he's going to align himself with the Death Riders. Why is that happening? I don't understand that. I'm confused. Why is Offspring all of a sudden feuding with Moxley, and then now he's going to be part of the Death Riders? I don't know about that. I'm I don't know about that, folks. I don't think I don't know if that's right. I don't know, because that's confusing the audience. See, this is what I mean when you confuse the audience. You will have him feud with you had him feud with Moxley, only to have Moxley speak to him and kidnap him and throw water on him and then make him work out with the Death Riders. I don't know, folks. I don't know what Tony Khan's cooking. I don't know what he's thinking here. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, why would you have him feud with Moxley only to join the Death or align himself with the Death Riders? We're gonna see about that, folks. I'm gonna have to. I'm on the fence with that. I don't know. I don't know about that, folks. I not quite sure about that. Mm-mm. Uh, I don't know what your feelings is, but for me, I think it's weird. I just think it's weird. I just think it's weird. Okay. All right, folks, let's move on. So that was Dynamite, folks. That was Dynamite. That was AEW Dynamite. And the show as a whole wasn't bad. I give the show a B. The show gets a B. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't terrible. I give the show a B. The show gets a B for me. And that's the best I can do for it. I can't wait to see what else Tony Khan has cooking in the cook pot for Double or Nothing. So that was Dynamite, folks. That was Dynamite. All right, folks, let's continue with wrestling news. All right, folks, let's talk about NXT for a second. Let's go back to NXT. As you all know, ladies and gentlemen, WWE has ended their partnership with Peacock. WWE used to be on Peacock along with NXT, and both entities are no longer on Peacock. So the WWE was stuck in limbo when it came to where the PLEs will land for NXT. Now we know. This past week, WWE and NXT and the CW Network announced that the CW has bought the broadcasting rights to do NXT's PLEs. They're going to do NXT PLEs exclusively on the CW11, which means, ladies and gentlemen, that you don't have to worry about paying for a NXT pay-per-view or a PLE, because all of the NXT PLEs going forward will now be home to the CW11. I think this is great. I think that this is fantastic. This helps the brand shine. This helps all the stars shine on television. And it really and truly helps the WWE in an entity brand known as NXT. And this is great for NXT. This is great for Shawn Michaels and company down in NXT in Florida. This is great. This is great news for NXT. I'm very happy for them. Congratulations to NXT on getting that done. And now they have a home. Now that, listen, yes, it's about the Benjamins. Yes, it's about that money. It's about that revenue. But listen, you have WWE PLEs on the ESPN app now. Now you have the CW grabbing NXT PLE. So now you know exactly where to go for NXT, and you know exactly where to go for WWE PLEs. All the WWE PLEs will now belong to the ESPN app, and now NXT's PLEs will belong to the CW network. This is great. Again, like I said before, I'll say it again. This is great. I don't have an issue with it. I don't have a problem with it. I don't. I think this is great. This is great strategy by WWE. They needed somewhere for the NXT PLEs to land. They had nowhere to land. Now they landed on the CW. And their first installment, ladies and gentlemen, of the PLEs will be the Great American Bash. The Great American Bash will debut on the CW11. And I don't have, again, like I said, I don't have an issue with it. I don't. I think this is great. I think this is fantastic. It'll be on a Sunday night. It'll be on either a Saturday night or Sunday. And you get to watch NXT live as it happens on free television on the CW network. What more could you want? What more could you want? Good stuff. Congratulations to the NXT brand. All right. Let's talk about WrestlingNews.co. WrestlingNews.co. Okay. President Nick Khan addressed several topics during the TKO town hall meeting on Monday per Post Wrestling, okay, including the back-to-back Las Vegas WrestleMania decision and Saudi safety and the company use of AI. So as you all know, ladies and gentlemen, WWE, you all didn't know this, WWE is using AI to help them hone their storylines and help them write their storylines. So they're going to artificial intelligence to help them craft some of their storylines. Now, I don't know how you all feel about that. I don't know how you all, feel about that. But sometimes it's good, sometimes it isn't. So You tell me whether you like it or not. You express your opinion on that one. On the back-to-back Las Vegas WrestleMania decisions and the lower attendance. That was ultimately my decision. Maybe we don't do that one again in terms of back-to-back, but ultimately it ended up being a successful event. He said that, okay, so Nick Khan says the decision to bring WrestleMania back to Las Vegas was his decision. Okay. And then the ultimate decision ultimately was my decision. But maybe we don't do that one again in terms of back to back. But ultimately it ended up being a successful event. Well, okay. Khan teased WrestleMania 28 location. Wait until you hear the announcement on where we're going to be for WrestleMania in 2028. So apparently Khan has a secret. He has a secret, and he's going to reveal it after the 2027 WrestleMania concluded. So apparently the site has been named for WrestleMania for 2028. The site has been named, and the WWE is so tight-lipped about it until they get all the legal ramifications behind it and the announcement from WWE. Now, everybody was saying that maybe it could be Nashville. Everybody is saying that the new Nissan Stadium, which was supposed to hold WrestleMania next year, but they couldn't work out the dates because the stadium is still being worked on, and the stadium WWE had to pull out of that, had to scrap that idea and moved it to Saudi Arabia and gave it to Saudi Arabia. So if it's Nashville for WrestleMania, I don't have a problem with it. I think Nashville, Tennessee is great. I think it's a great town for wrestling. I think it's a great venue for wrestling. And this is a first if you're going to give it to Nashville. It'll be a first because WrestleMania has never been held in Nashville before, and I think this will be good. This is a great travel destination for everyone. It's very relatively easily to get there by plane and fly down to Nashville and be a part of WrestleMania weekend. I don't have a problem with it if that's the case, but we'll see. Okay. And there's also good news. I forgot about this. This is also good news, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like the WWE has kept their promise and they have made SummerSlam tickets affordable. Listen to me carefully, folks. They've made SummerSlam affordable. Now, I saw the seating chart this morning when the tickets went on sale because they did a pre-sale this morning. And so far, the tickets are flying out the door. I saw that a lot of seats have been sold. A lot of seats have been sold, and there's still some seats available for the combination tickets, but they're not going to last long. So apparently the prices are not that bad. They're not that bad. They're manageable. They're not astronomically, wickedly expensive like WrestleMania was. This is affordable. It's a little pricey on the floor. The floor is still pricey, but it's not out of control pricey. So I think by the time we get to August, we're gonna be happy. We're gonna be talking to sell out. We could possibly be talking to us. I saw the prices. It's not that bad. It's not that bad for SummerSlam. It's really not. For 2 nights combination, and you get the same section, same seat. I don't see one. And it's affordable. Why not? Make it a fun weekend in August. All right. On Saudi Arabia for the Night of Champions PLE on June 28th, Khan says we're only going if it's safe or if we're allowed there. We're monitoring with our heads of security internationally and heads of security internally and with our government affair folks externally. If the U.S. citizens are allowed in at that moment in time, it is declared deemed safe. We'll be going there. Saudi is deeply interested of getting WWE back there and getting events restarted. Mhm. WWE will only run Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia and not the surrounding Raw or SmackDown shows. Okay, so when the WWE goes to Saudi and they do the Night of Champions in June, at the end of June, which will be on June 28th, they will not do Raw or SmackDown in Saudi. Raw and SmackDown will be going back to the United States location. I don't have a problem with that. Remember, I believe June 28th, the Night of Champions, will also be the same day as as AEW's Forbidden Door. So I believe that's what the Forbidden Door is in San Jose County, California, at the SAP Center. But I'll check up on that. Okay. TKO President Marshall also confirmed Nick Khan and Triple H are using yeah, so as I said before, they're using AI for the artificial intelligence for their storylines. So that's what the WWE is doing. Okay. All right, folks, we got one more story for you, and it's a sad one. And we're going to leave you tonight with a very sad note. Mark Izzard. Now, if you all didn't see this, Mark Izzard was a wrestling fan who attended WWE WrestleMania over the weekend. And bless her heart, Natalia is so good. She brought this up on the internet. Now, I don't know if you all saw this or not on the internet, but this was all over the internet. And courtesy of NoDQ.com, they gave you an update on his whereabouts because he was missing. Mark is a resident of the United Kingdom, was reportedly missing after traveling to Las Vegas, Nevada for WWE's WrestleMania 42, but failing to make his return flight home. After the Las Vegas Review Journal reported that Izzard passed away, shared a Facebook message from Izzard's sister Kelly, who acknowledges her brother's death. We are devastated to have let everyone know that Mark passed away in Las Vegas on April 18th. In the early evening, he passed away quickly from natural causes related to his underlying medical conditions. Although we're obviously devastated at our loss, we are at some comfort knowing he passed doing what he loved so much. So after SmackDown, this poor gentleman passed away, and a GoFundMe campaign was launched with the following message. On Saturday, April the 18th, our lives changed forever. Our beloved brother, Mark Izzard, passed away in Las Vegas while doing what he loved most, attending WWE WrestleMania weekend. Mark wasn't just a spectator, he was a staple of the wrestling community. From his childhood days to his travels across the globe. Mark's life was defined by his passion for the ring. Whether he supported local independent promotions or traveling for the grandest stage of them all, Mark lived for energy, the story, and the idols he met along the way. The heart of a superfan, Mark spent his life following the sport that inspired him. He was also a familiar face to so many. To, he was a familiar face to many in the indie scene and dedicated WWE fan who cherished every moment spend ringside. Tragically, after attending Friday Night SmackDown, Mark's journey came to an unexpected end. So, and after he attended SmackDown, he never got to see WrestleMania. And I'm just, excuse me, I'm just so bummed and so sad of this story. And on behalf of myself and all of the wrestling community and all the wrestling fans, we share our deepest condolences with Mark's family, his friends, and anybody who knew Mark. And it's so tragic to know that he traveled from the UK just to see wrestling, just to go and experience WrestleMania weekend, only to not finish his journey and not see WrestleMania in person. So again, Mark, I am so sorry to all his friends and his sister for the loss. Like I said, if you want to go on the GoFundMe page and give him some money, you can do that. Look him up, and you could be part. You could do your part as well. Again, very tragic, very very tragic, and it's sad. All right, folks. That is gonna do it for the wrestling experience. But I just want to just point out one other thing before I go. This month, ladies and gentlemen, we lost someone very special in the wrestling community too. And it's going to be 3 years since we lost this gentleman. And I miss him to pieces. I miss him to pieces. And I'm talking about Mr. Jeffrey Turner. Jeffrey was somebody who was loved by this community, and he was loved at the hardcore sports, and he was loved by me, and he was loved by everybody who worked with him. Jeffrey will be missed, but he will never be forgotten. And I always do a very special wrestling experience and dedication of him, and we're going to do it again this May, at the end of May. And Memorial Day weekend will be something that I will never forget. Is when we lost Jeffrey. And I got to work with him one last time. And we were supposed to work together the next day, and he was unreachable. And then we did that tough, and I mean very tough, Raw watch along the next day when I had to announce the passing of Jeffrey Turner. You know, he was funny, he was passionate, he was loyal. He was he had a mind for everything, not just wrestling, but Jeffrey had a mind for football. He had a mind for everything, and whatever he touched turned to gold. He was absolutely a breath of fresh air. And I wish that there were more people like Jeffrey Turner. I really wish there were more people like Jeffrey because he was nothing short of sensational. And I loved him to pieces. I loved working with him. I enjoyed working with him. I enjoyed being with him. I enjoyed him here in the wrestling experience. Every time I called Jeffrey and I said, Jeffrey, I need a guest for the wrestling experience, he hopped on it. He hopped on that. He hopped on it, and we debated about shenanigans. We talked about wrestling. We talked about life. It was just like a friend you knew for many years, and that's what Jeffrey was to me. And we're gonna talk about his life, his legacy, and everything else at the end of May here at the Wrestling Experience. And I still cannot believe it's been 3 years since he's gone. But he's like I said, he's never forgotten. I'm quite sure he would have a lot of opinions on WrestleMania this weekend, last month. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, excuse me. I'm sure he would have an opinion on the releases that happened last week. I'm sure he would have a lot of opinions on AEW. I'm quite sure Jeffrey would be using his voice and his platform as a sounding board for his displeasure or delight, whatever it was. And the Raw watch along was never the same after Jeffrey left. We had some guests, we had some good people, we had some great people on the Raw watch along. I had fun doing it. I had fun doing the Raw watch along. I thought it was a lot of fun after Jeffrey left, after Jeffrey passed. We had a good group. We had a great group. We had great guests. Um, but me and Jeffrey and I were just when we did the Raw watch along together with our loyal soldiers like Sarah and everything else. We had fun. We had fun. And that is what life is all. You have to enjoy life, folks. You got to enjoy life because it's just our tomorrows are not guaranteed, folks. It just isn't. And you gotta embrace it. You gotta embrace life. Don't worry about the petty stuff. Don't worry about stupid arguments or dumb things. Don't worry about those things. Just enjoy your life. Just enjoy your life. Live it. Live in the moment. If you gotta make people smile, make them smile. If you gotta educate someone, educate them. But don't tear down somebody. Don't hate on somebody. Marvel at what they can do. Marvel at what they can bring to you and to your life. I'm blessed every day. Good, bad, or indifferent, I'm always blessed. Yes, I have an opinion. Yes, I'll give you my opinion if I don't like something. I'll be brutally honest. But at the end of the day, folks, I'm always humbled at my gifts that I'm given. I'm always humbled at what I got. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the Wrestling Experience. I'm Earl Cole. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Go Knicks. And I'll talk to you real soon in Cyberland. Oh, by the way, before I go, I did a poll. Folks, and I asked you all, should I broadcast Backlash? Overwhelming, you all said no. So you know what, folks? I ain't doing Backlash. No Backlash, folks. But I'll be watching. I'll be watching on my tablet. I'll be watching. And I'll be watching from afar. I'll give you my opinions later on down the road. Until then, everyone, thank you for watching Wrestling Experience. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Take care of yourself and each other. And I'll see you soon. Good night, everyone.